Hey guys, and welcome back to the Geekbox, and today I'm going to be looking at doing a review for Battlefield 2042. Now, I've been playing this game since the beta at the start, when it first came out, day one, so I pre-ordered it, pre-downloaded it, etc. So there's been a variety of patches since, and there's been a lot. I've seen the news with reviews, etc., from like mainstream outlets and a few other groups now on the game, and they've been very up and down. So I thought today I'd do a review and give you my thoughts on the game as well, so I haven't done a review on this channel for a while. So we're going to get into it today. But before we do, quickly as well, if you haven't already, please feel free to hit the subscribe button. That will keep you up to date on all the latest content on the channel, which is now coming on a regular basis. And if you enjoy this video, hit that like button, because you know YouTube doesn't like to support smaller people on the platform, but that helps out, and well, I like to feel the love. But anyway, let's get into the video. So as I said there in the intro, the reviews on the game have been somewhat mixed. There's been a variety of people calling it the worst Battlefield so far, terrible, it's not an upgrade on the previous ones, and there's also been people that have been praising the fact that they've kept a lot of the continuity, originality, and added more to it. Now, I think in between the two, I think a lot of it comes to your perspective of how you felt the game was in the first place, and also what edition you have. I've noticed in a lot of the reviews that's what's been missing. Now, I've played both the Xbox One and the Xbox Series, well, S for me, versions of the game. There is a big difference between the two. I found the version on the Xbox One was actually quite difficult to deal with. It didn't react as well, it didn't let you play as well compared to the new series. So I found on the S actually that it was a lot more reactionary. So keeping that in mind as I go through this review, I will be reviewing this from the point of view of the Xbox Series S version, to the new generation version. I think the first thing to point out is the fact there is no single player campaign on this Battlefield, which I found was quite a shame, as I loved the campaigns on like Battlefield 4, etc. The storytelling I thought was great. It was really enjoyable the way they literally made a single player campaign out of the elements from the multiplayer campaigns. So that's a big hit for me. I wasn't enough to put me off getting the game, as obviously they made us aware of this before it came out, but I do think it's missed something vital there. So obviously this whole thing includes down to it as a multiplayer game. Well, as a shooting game, the weapons are obviously front and center of what actually is going on in Battlefield. Now, there's not a huge variety of weapons, but there is a lot of different implements you can add to your weapons as you unlock them if you use the guns more and more. You've got your few types of, say, LMGs, you've got a few different sniper rifles, some shotguns, some bolt action weapons, you've got some well, range things like lever action rifles, and then going down to your pistols, your assault rifles, etc. But I will say I don't actually believe that's a hindrance on this game, simply because the style of gameplay you create for yourself, you don't need a huge range of weapons. I think if they added more and more and more guns into the game, they'd end up just doing near duplicates of the game's already based guns that it has. I mean, different skins and that, which you can unlock, are really cool. Like I said, the attachments. But I think if they had, say, 50 of every type of gun, you just end up with so many weapons all basically the same. We'd be wondering why they bothered programming them all in the first place. And that leads on to the vehicles, which is another vital part of Battlefield. Now, I know there's pretty much the same level in what vehicles you have in 2042 as you did to Battlefield 4, but for me this is one area where it doesn't feel the same, is the only way I can put it. The vehicles felt much more involved in the maps that we had on Battlefield 4. So not having like more vehicles added in so much felt like a bit of a letdown for me on that one. I mean, I'm not a big vehicle user in the game anyhow, but it just felt like with it being set in the future, they had the opportunity to add some really cool items into the game vehicle wise, and they haven't seized upon that opportunity. and I'm hoping that's something we see added into the future in a DLC content, which we'll cover later in this video. The graphics are one point that people have spoken about quite a bit with this. Now, obviously the graphics have improved on this compared to Battlefield 4, I believe. Personally, obviously playing from the next gen point of view, I would expect them to have improved. Is it dramatically improved? I'd say not, but is it enough that you definitely notice the game's been upgraded? Absolutely. People that have been trying to argue that it's not improved that much to really notice the difference, then you might as well play Battlefield 4 and it'd be the same thing. I think that's just ridiculous. Just people are going to hate on things, they always do when games come out. But yes, I definitely think the graphics improved. The visuals of much tighter things like the guns, the buildings you're in, they definitely feel a lot cleaner, a lot more crisp, which really does add to the experience when you're trying to identify an enemy, for example, or even just taking some of the landscape. So it's definitely one area I think they have improved on. I think they've done a good core structure with that. That does lead me on to the next point though, is the destruction element. Now, Battlefield is known for the fact it has highly destructive landscapes, and this is one thing I'm not sure what they were thinking planning wise with this. There's a lot you can destroy in 2042, but I actually feel like there's a lot less than you got in Battlefield 4 or even 5. 5 is more limited obviously because of World War II weapons, etc. But the destruction on this, you can destroy a lot of walls and windows, etc, of course, but it just doesn't feel like there's enough of the map you can tear down compared to the older iterations of the game. So the destruction is one area for me which is actually a bit of a negative. Like, it's not enough to ruin gameplay. I mean, there are some maps, like I said, you can absolutely annihilate the area that people are in, but I think this also does come down to as well, there's not actually a lot of indoor play points in the game. A lot of where you're battling is an outdoor area, so it's kind of balance. You've got less destruction, but because there's less indoor arenas to actually fight in across all the levels, so it's a bit of a balance. I think when they introduce more maps into the game, which they hopefully will in the future, we'll probably will see a lot more destroyable things be added in as well. And that leads on to the maps. Now, there's only a few maps so far in 2042, which I believe they're already showing the fact there's going to be a battle pass, so I have to imagine that that's probably what the battle pass is going to be centered around: new vehicles, new maps, new weapons, perhaps a few new operators. The maps are definitely, they're good maps, but I feel some of them are a little bit barren. There's one or two maps in particular, I think, where you could only take one particular type of weapon or maybe two into it for the majority of it, where you're just sniping across the map or you're all charged in, and it limits the variety of gameplay I think that you actually are able to achieve. So if you like to play as a certain type of player, I think there are maps that benefit you a lot more and maps that hinder you a lot more. But as I keep saying throughout this, obviously that's something I'm hoping they address throughout DLC, but I think I've only come across one map so far in the game that I actually have a disdain for. The rest of them I think are well crafted maps. It is very open compared to what I would have expected, but you adapt and learn the game as you go on, and they do give you a good balance between being on the ground, being in a vehicle, and where you're flying around to and that. And I think they have a lot to face up to as well, because the maps that they had in Battlefield 4 were amazing maps, I think, and trying to maintain that standard is not the easiest thing to do. Obviously, another element of the Battlefield series has always been its range of operators. Now, this is one thing I will say, I think in 2042 they smashed it with the operators. I've only played as a few of them so far, and I absolutely love the characters they've done. In the old Battlefield games, I never too fussed about what operator I played as, just depending on what equipment etc was available. But the operators being built in the way they are and having such unique tools and that, I think they really captured what makes it important about who you pick to play as and building your strategy around that. I mean, I keep coming back round to the same character over and over because I love the turret that he has, I love the unlocks that you have, the outfits for him, so I do keep finding myself playing as that one particular operator, not just because I'm used to that operator, but because I'm drawn to what's actually attached to that operator. I've played as a few of the others, as I've said, and I found their equipment as well as fantastic, and if I spent more time playing as them I probably would get more used to their equipment and then learn to build myself around that and my style of play. But I think the operators have made a huge difference in improving how this game goes. On the bigger scale though, from the operators, one thing I'm really hoping they do address is there's only 2 armies in this. They've literally put it America versus Russia, and that's all we have so far. Now, obviously, it doesn't make a huge difference. Who you're shooting at is who you're shooting at. It doesn't matter what the uniform they're wearing, and obviously what you wear is what's based on what you choose to play anyway as a character. But I would like to see them place a little bit more in there. Some British forces in there, you know, get some the Libyans, or to any random group you can have armies from around the world, so you feel like it really is a global war that you're dealing with, not just the Cold War come to life, so to speak. So in the DLC content, I'm hoping that's one thing they address quite quickly, because it's just a nice little bit that mixes it up a little bit more when you feel you're playing as different armies, etc. And I know that's something to do with Battlefield 5, so I have to feel that's something they're planning to do with this one as well. And lay on that, one of the things is just DLC. I think we know it's coming, and it's a must in this game. Should they put everything in together, considering what you paid for the game? Yeah, they probably should have, really. But DLC's coming, so hopefully that's going to be introducing a whole range of things, because right now the game is thoroughly enjoyable, but there are points where you're playing after a while, it can feel a little repetitive on some of the limitations you have. Not so much to put you off playing the game, but enough for you to notice it. So hopefully the DLC will introduce some more operators, which will be cool because they've smashed it so far on those. Introduce new armies, some new maps, some new vehicles that we can use, new weapons or new weapon skins, and of course more indoor mapping, etc. The way you can destroy a lot more and blow walls apart and use a whole host of strategies to get to your enemy. But I think that should sum up pretty much what needs to go into it, but I don't think that there's enough lacking right now to say it's not a game to play. And the only other thing that really gets me with the game so far, and I found this is a very mixed experience, is there's a bit of hit variation in the game. Some people I've spoken to aren't experiencing it so much. Some people I've spoken to, what I see online, are experiencing it a lot, where the hit markers aren't really matching up so much at times, where you could hit somebody with 7 or 8 rounds with a gun and they don't go down, and you get hit once with the same gun and you go down even though it's a body shot. And there's been a lot of whiplash with it, which I think affected the reviews as well. And like I said earlier in the video, I'm not the greatest player, so part of it is just simply the fact that I suck. But if they're hoping that's one thing they patch up, because they have actually acknowledged it themselves that there's an issue with that in the game at times. So I think they've addressed it quite well. That is a side point, but I didn't actually put it down in my notes I made. But I would say that the DICE have reacted very well to the feedback they've been given, and they have shown that they're proactively trying to ensure that everything goes to the game it needs to make the game a great experience. So my overall thoughts on this whole thing is I'm actually really enjoying the game. In fact, I love the game. As I said, there's a lot of things that could be improved in it, as I pointed out, but overall an actual enjoyable first person multiplayer shooting game. It's a great game, and you can get stuck into it so well for so long and just improve yourself and use different tactics and different load ups and different attachments. I think Battlefield's a game, if I was going to mark it out of 5, right now I'd give it a solid 4 out of 5. Like I said, there's a lot of things to improve to make it a 5 out of 5 game. I feel like I couldn't really ever call it a 5 out of 5 game because it didn't have the single player mode into it, which greatly disappointed me. But as a multiplayer game, it's definitely a solid 4 out of 5 on the review scale. Well guys, thanks for watching, and if you've been playing the game, let me know what you think in the comments down below about the game so far. And if you like this video, please feel free to hit that like button. And hopefully, if you've been debating about getting Battlefield, this video will help make your decision, or at least make you a bit more informed before you go splashing out that cash. Well, thanks for watching the video guys, and as always, I'll see you all out there.